Are you all for suffering on your bike and enjoying some of the most beautiful and satisfying cycling climbs ever? Well, this video is the perfect fit for you. Today we'll be telling you all about 10 of the world's most challenging cycling climbs that'll appeal to your adventurous side. Some are so crazy you might need a death wish to actually head out there. Stick around to find out all about it. First up, we've got the Death Road in Bolivia. Before we get started, here's something you must know about the road. Reports claim that around 200 to 300 people die there every year. Of course, these numbers don't solely come from cycling accidents, but still, it's a pretty huge figure. You'll find this fantastic road to be around 4,650 meters above sea level in the youngest mountain. It easily rounds up to around 80 kilometers, and you should set aside 4 to 5 hours in your schedule to finish this trail. The thing about this trail is that most of it basically goes downhill, which makes it tough to properly handle the brakes. But once you're able to get comfortable with the pace at which you're going, take a look at the magnificent view around you. The Andes mountain range is definitely a wonder you don't want to miss. Next up, we've got the Mount Wuling climb in Taiwan. This 105-kilometer-long climb has an average gradient of 3.1% and allows you the unique opportunity to travel from sea level to a height of 3,275 meters. Now, some might think that it won't be that big of a deal. Well, here's where you're wrong. Cyclists who've attempted this climb have mentioned that the humidity gets really bad. And on top of that, the length and the slope make things even more difficult. Even though the climb promises excellent views and gorgeous scenery, the steep uphill slopes that go up to 27% might lead you to have second thoughts. And on top of this, we're not sure if you'd really be able to enjoy the waterfalls this path has to offer once you cross the 2,500-meter mark. The thin air will just be making your fatigue worse. But this doesn't stop a lot of people from making their way to this climb every October. In fact, many professional riders also take part in the KOM challenge that's hosted there. Moving on, we've got the El Medano Trail. This particular climb is going to test all sorts of limits you have. Sitting in Tenerife with a length of 54 kilometers and a gradient of 4.2%, maxing at 13%, this route is a real endurance challenge for anyone trying their luck at it. The main challenge at El Medano is its high temperature, which only seems to get worse as the climb continues to stretch on. Apparently, this climb has been declared to be the best for winter training, so if that's what you're looking for, then this is perfect for you. Now let's turn to France, and it's Mont Ventoux. Stretching at 21 kilometers, this climb is definitely worthy of its spot on the list. With an average slope of 7.5% that even goes up to 12%, Mont Ventoux also has wind rallying against the cyclists. That's right, forget about conquering the slopes when you've got winds as high as 200 miles per hour blowing at the summit. It takes around 2 hours or more to finish this climb, and is perhaps one of the most climbs of cyclists around the world, but this doesn't mean it's not deadly. In the 1967 Tour de France, British rider Tim Simpson ended up collapsing during this climb and died there. You might even cross his tomb on the way to the top, but if you ever want to make it up there, then you better start practicing now. Up next, the sharp turns of Alto de Longliru are the real deal. With a route of only 12.5 kilometers, this might seem like a piece of cake as compared to some other climbs we've discussed, but let us assure you that this small trail in Spain is nothing like that. The slopes of this route range from 9.9 to 23%, so even if the short distance might not seem like a big challenge to you, the steep gradients are bound to take out all the energy from you. Another major problem is that the slopes come and go very quickly, so you'll probably spend most of your time trying to get a hang of that. Well, such a track is definitely not for amateurs. Only head out here if you're really confident in your skills. Let's head back home for a bit with Mount Washington and its 12-kilometer-long endurance challenge. This particular route has been described as not just the most difficult hill climb race in America, but also around the world. With its unforgiving slopes that have an average gradient of 11.9% and max out at 19%, this route has actually been described as brutal. And on top of this, the track isn't all smooth sailing. Oh no. In fact, you should brace yourself for a mile-long section of some gravel on the course to throw you off your game. With sudden and sharp switchbacks, Mount Washington promises all the experiences of professional European tracks, so this might be an ideal spot for you to practice some tricks. Up next, we've got Mount Zolakon with its savage slopes. Most of the tracks we've discussed in this video until now pose huge challenges to cyclists with their steep slopes and sharp turns, while this next track promises to leave them all behind. Even though the Italian track is a little over 10 kilometers long, its average gradient of 11.5% with a max hitting 19% definitely hit a curveball towards the cyclists. But wait, there's more. This track isn't plain. In fact, it has a forest section that goes on for 4 kilometers. And apart from that, cyclists will have to pass through 3 tunnels before immediately coming face to face with some pretty severe switchbacks. Well, this track is definitely not for the faint-hearted, and we aren't the only ones saying that. Even several professional cyclists have had trouble tackling the ascent on this climb. We think it's probably because the steep slopes don't let you increase your speed immediately. Moving Moving on, we've got an inhumane track from Spain. The Alto de los Machucos track has been considered pretty dangerous for a while now. Even though it's only 7.1 kilometers long, it's been declared not safe for a cycling race. The track hits an altitude of only 873 meters, but what it lacks in height, it makes up for in steepness. With a max grade of 28% and an average one of 9%, this climb is definitely every cyclist's nightmare. So if you somehow find yourself on this track in the future, just be wary of the slopes, because if you're not cautious enough, then you might even end up breaking your leg. Don't believe us? Let's give you a little taste of how steep this track is. The path couldn't be asphalted properly as the slopes turned out to be too steep for even the machinery being used. Yikes! And interestingly, in order to complete the route, precast squares of concrete had to be lifted and put into place. Oh well, this track would definitely be able to test your skills out. Up next, this track in England truly lives up to its name. The Hard Knot Pass in England stretches over only 2 kilometers, which might make it seem very easy, but that's exactly what's going to bring on your downfall. The maximum gradient on the slopes of this track hit a solid 30%, which is more than enough to make a professional cyclist shake in their boots. Apart from this, the path has an average gradient of 15%, which basically means it's a constant struggle. This track has been labeled one of the hardest ones in the United Kingdom, and rightly so. According to the locals of that area, if you manage to complete this track without placing your shoe on the ground, then you have definitely achieved something. So if you ever make your way towards this track without proper training, well, look out for those steep slopes and pray that you don't lose control. Last but not least, the tiny Koppenberg track is definitely the biggest challenge. This track is one of the most famous tracks not just in Belgium, but across the world. This cobbled climb is also known as the toughest and most feared climb in the country. You'll experience a sudden increase in the slope after just 100 meters, which would be hard to cover because of the uneven cobblestones. And well, if it begins to rain, then you better get out there quickly because there's a huge chance that you might lose control of the bike and slip. Even though this track is just 0.6 kilometers long, it's still got slopes hitting double digits. With an average gradient of 10.2% and a maximum of 19%, the track is rightly feared by even some great professional cyclists around the world. That's a wrap for this video, folks. Which one do you think is the scariest? Did we miss out on any of the hardest cycling climbs? Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more awesome videos like this. See you in the next one with the latest updates.